I'm Corbett Wall with DV Auction, here with your feeder flash for Monday, February the 22nd, brought to you in part by Joplin Regional Stockyards. Back to business now. They were closed, of course, last week because of the frigid temperatures and harsh road conditions and everything, but should have a good run here on Monday, getting back to business, back to selling stuff. You might want to make a note at Joplin, they did end up canceling the special cow sale that they were going to have on Friday the 19th. So they're going to have that same offering and a special cow sale March the 6th. And that's going to be right after your Hilltop Farms production sale there at Joplin Regional Stockyard. So another opportunity to come in there and look at some top genetics there from Hilltop, and then stay for the special cow sale and pick up some replacements there. But this past week, the lightest non-holiday week ever, I get, in modern times, in modern cattle marketing, since we built our infrastructure of sale barns all across the country. And they, even in the summertime, would have seen a bigger run, but they were just closed. And probably the biggest thing, and I talked about it earlier in the week, that I couldn't believe was when Ellison Carter told me that he had been in the order buying business, covering most all the sales in the central part of Texas, with 50 order buyers out now. He'd been doing that for 45 years. He said never before ever has all my sales been canceled on a non-holiday week. He said we didn't have one sale that we went to. And that's just huge. And it wasn't just Texas. It was Oklahoma. It was Arkansas. It was a lot of Missouri. A lot of the Southeast ended up, canceling later on in the week whenever that storm started going through there. But it was just unbelievable how many sales were closed. And so we just didn't really get a good feel for the market. But in fact, Nacogdoches, Texas, which has been getting pretty decent runs of cattle there, I tell you what, they had enough snowpack on the roof there that it took it down. I don't know if you guys had seen this picture there, but you hate to see that. Those guys, it's definitely going to cause them to have to probably shut down for a while, or a lot of work to get that cleaned up. I also noted that the Exchange building at the historic Fort Worth Stockyards, old Exchange building, which is kind of a tourist place now, and Superior had been in there for many years with their video sales, but they have just recently moved out a few months ago to a new facility out in Weatherford, Texas. But still, the historic Fort Worth Stockyards Exchange building flooded out there with cracked pipes or pipes busted up in the upper floors, and just the water was just streaming down all over it. Just make you sick to look at that. But unbelievable how cold it got, And it was cold up in the Midwest and Northern Plains too, and colder than it normally gets, in the wintertime, maybe 20, 30 below zero regular temperature, more maybe. I've seen some guys 37 below, and then of course it's like measuring fish. Somebody's always going to say it was colder at their house than what you had it, and had more rain and all that kind of stuff. But it was damn cold everywhere. We lost a lot of calves, a lot of newborn calves, out of first calf heifers. We went to a lot of work. A lot of guys had picking out your replacement quality heifers and grooming them, and then to lose the first calf out of them, because a lot of guys are calving their first calf heifers right now. And most of the guys, well, maybe not most of them, but a lot of them will probably just take those to the sale. It doesn't pay to keep cattle around for a whole year when they're not producing like that. So, but, those numbers need to be taken into account. The significant loss of weights. I talked to some guys there late last week, said a lot of these cattle have coming in weighing 50, 60 pounds less than what they should out of your feedlots, and cows were pulled down. Calves that were turned out, if you had any on wheat pasture or the like, they got pulled down a bunch. But just a rough week, and like I said, we didn't really get a good feel for your feeder cattle market. We kind of were thinking things were going our way, but like so many times happens whenever we start to approach these premiums on your cattle futures, whether it be feeder cattle, but mostly on live cattle, when we start to approach them and they're at a higher price, it's kind of like an oasis. They just go away, right as we get there. And that's happening again. We don't have much of the basis that we had there. It's tightened up. And so, are we going to be able to see these huge premiums that we see on your back months now? I mean, we're looking at an $8 premium with your April live cattle futures compared to what we're sitting at now with February, and February's higher than what our cash market is, but not too much. Like I said, they've narrowed that basis down, but it's kind of, we're going into a kind of an area where we need things to start working right for us. We need to keep these plants open. They were scheduled for maintenance and things like that, and then a lot of them were closed down or couldn't stay open with rolling blackouts and all that kind of thing. Last week's had a very disappointing slaughter, but the packers are wanting to get back to business. They've got orders to fill and they're wanting to get back going again. We just need some things to work right. Cattle on feed report come out. There wasn't a whole lot of talk about it, but that's another thing that didn't go right. It come out bearish. They missed the placement figures by about 3 percentage points, and that's kind of bearish. But look at your cattle on feed. Your on feed inventories, February the 1st, the total came out to be 101.4% of a year ago, compared to the average of the guesses, which was 100.9. So, that's just the difference in where they, how much they missed the placements is how much they missed the total inventory there. And your placements, like I said, the figure came in at 103.1% of a year ago's numbers, where they were guessing for 99.9. That's fairly bearish there. I don't know how they can miss those placements that much. We look at your marketings, and we had 2 fewer days, I think it was, in the month. So marketings were going to be disappointing, we know, but they were even more. 94.3% of a year ago, when the average guess was 94.7. So I think that will hurt your market, at least on the open Monday. You figure your board will probably be down to start out with, because that's some bearish news we weren't really looking for, and we don't have anything really to prop it up right now. But guys, the guys that are managing the fund money, your fund managers, they still kind of like the cattle deal, the cattle futures, and that's a commodity that they think has some go to it, and they're pretty heavily invested in it and kind of staying right in there. You look at those back months, and they look pretty proud, guys. But let's look at your futures market for last week. February live cattle futures. Monday was President's Day, so the board was closed. Tuesday down 105, Wednesday down 85 cents, Thursday down 17, Friday up 80 cents. With February live cattle futures ending the week at 115.92. April ended the week at 123.67. March feeder cattle. Monday was President's Day. Tuesday down 7, Wednesday down 235, Thursday down 22, Friday back up 92. And I think a lot of that was just kind of profit taken with your Fridays bouncing back a little bit there. But also looking into the better weather forecast for this week coming in. We're going to be mostly back to normal temperatures, with the exception of the East Coast that's still handling that storm that comes through Texas and Oklahoma and around. But March feeder cattle ended the week at 139.12, and that April ended the week at 142.67. Your fat cattle trade was pretty light. We knew it was going to be light because they weren't slaughtering a whole lot, so they weren't going to need a whole lot. Plus, your packers have a lot of cattle committed to them as we go through this part right here between now and April. They've got a lot of cattle for March committed to them already. And they can pull on those cattle, and they are pulling on those cattle, or bringing them in, and they just aren't needing a lot of cattle on the open market. That's why we need to have minimum negotiated cash trade in your fed cattle arena. We really need it, guys, and we can't give up on that. But through Thursday, only 39,200 head, nothing, and then not a whole lot of trade on Friday either. So looks like we're going to be well under 50,000 there. For the week last week, negotiated cash in your 5-area feeding region. Live sales steers and heifers from 112 to 116.50, but mostly 113 to predominantly 114. That's mostly steady. Did have a few 115 noted up in Iowa, and I tell you what, they're kind of running at a little premium right there, and good for them for once. But those are deals where those smaller regional packers are looking for quality, and then they want some cattle that are clean. They've got some cattle that are fed in those feeding barns on slats, and not carrying near the tag that a lot of these cattle are carrying, and they'll give a little premium for those. How about your dress sales steers and heifers? 178 to 182, mostly 180 to 182, but a lot of the spread from 180 to 182, but not a whole lot of dress trade. They didn't want to give up what the sellers wanted to get the dress cattle, so they didn't get that many. Much lighter dress sales than what we normally see. But you look at that market, that's steady to $2 higher, really. So, and then we're seeing a premium come back up there in the Northern Plains, and we know that our market-ready supplies are lighter in the Southern Plains. But why are they getting the premium in the Northern Plains? And like I said just a second ago, I think it's largely because you got some outfits coming in there and wanting some of that really top quality. But your weighted average on live steers, about 114.12 through Thursday, and that's not going to change a whole lot. That's a pinch better than the week before. And your dressed steers had a weighted average of 180.69. That'd be several cents better than the previous week. So not too bad all in all. Friday's trade, about 5,800 head in Iowa. That was 112 to 115. Same as they had on Thursday when most of the trade happened. Nebraska about 5,900, and 114 and 180 to 181. Kansas only 1,400 head at 114. Texas less than 100 head at 114. That's your market. Look at your slaughter for last week, 552,000, down 56,000 from the previous week, and down 74,000 from the same week a year ago, because they couldn't keep those plants open. Rolling blackouts. Couldn't get cattle or couldn't get workers in there with the bitter cold and the bad road conditions and the like, and that's just something that's going to happen. But it's another black swan that your packers were really able to take advantage of, because they boosted their wholesale beef market levels or cutout values. They boosted those quite a bit this week, and we're able to use the not being able to keep the plants open as a good excuse to mark those up. Those aren't negotiated values, guys. They set those, they don't really care how much they move on the spot market there, as long as they can get those values set up there a little higher. Did have a pretty decent Saturday, 63,000 on Saturday, as most of that weather had moved out. And so we should see a big week this week on slaughter. We're expecting that. How about box beef cutout values that I just talked about? Your weighted average for all of last week's sales on choice cuts, 236.56, up 280 compared to the previous week's weighted average. And the Friday afternoon quotes were like $3 higher than that, higher than the weighted average. So still moving up. Select cuts weighted average for last week's trades, 224.89, up 419 on the selects, and also your Friday afternoon quotes are about $3 higher than that too. So they've gained quite a bit of ground there. Going to be heading down to San Antonio this week, taking my daughters down there to show their livestock at the stock show. It's kind of a weird deal, like in COVID. I'm not sure what it's going to be like, but I guess we'll find out. But going to be down in the hill country area. Kind of getting ready to go into San Antonio and then going in there, and then I actually don't get to watch them go through the ring, because going to be heading up to Oregon there to Lorenzen Ranch's production sale, and that's going to be on Thursday. And so if you guys are up in Oregon up there, and it's going to be at Madras at the Central Livestock Sales there, Central Oregon Livestock Market. And if you guys are in that area, come by and check us out for the Lorenzen Ranch production sale. How about your real-time index on DV auction for to end the week with 140.90? That was up $3.73 compared to the end of the previous week. Your CME cash feeder cattle index was bogging way behind because they didn't have those big high volume Monday sales to keep them boosted up. So, and a lot of the sales that ended up having a pretty good run in like in Nebraska and the Dakotas and places like that don't have a market reporter, and so they were falling way behind. But after Wednesday's sales, the CME cash feeder cattle index that come in for Thursday, it was $2 higher all of a sudden. But your real-time index is still $2 higher than that or more. So eventually it'll catch up, and then they'll get some numbers pumped back in there here after Monday. But your cash feeder market and your sales was not well tested. Like I said, you had some really good markets some places, and some were kind of draggy. You know, your order buyers are sure wanting to get something bought. They're missing that commission. But it was kind of hard to move cattle around, and the guys didn't really want to mess with them in the cold, having to get them in and process them and all that kind of thing. But the market was pretty strong on feeder cattle, but you know, really hot on the few lightweights that we see around. One place that we did see a lot of lightweights around, place where I was at on Thursday and ended up running over into Friday, was at Fallon, Nevada, at the Nevada Livestock Marketing Sale there at 8,000 head on Thursday in Fallon, Nevada. Big sale, biggest sale in the United States last week. So they'll get to notch that one up there, the biggest sale in the whole country out there in Fallon, Nevada. But my gosh, they just had droves and droves and droves. Very few feeder type cattle there at Fallon this time of year. Mostly all little calf weight yearlings. And man, were they hot on those, and those dried out things coming off those high desert areas out there. You know, you couldn't kill one of them, you know, with a pickaxe, and just running gears for the most part. Open-haired cattle in a thin, empty condition, and man, did we see some prices. You can see a top quote on a set of 500-pound steers there, 66 head of them. These averaged $498 right at 500 pounds, 195.75. You won't see that anywhere, but you won't see cattle like that anywhere else either. How about Mankato, Kansas? Mankato Livestock had a top quote out of there. 80 head, 888 pounds on Friday, bring 139.75 there. Almost 140 on some cattle that are pushing 900 pounds. That's a big time quote there. That's about as good a quote as we saw in cattle weighing that close to 9 anywhere last week. St. Onge Livestock. Justin Tupper there, my buddy, St. Onge, South Dakota. 61 head, 917 pound steers bring 138.50. Wow. But the best quote that I saw anywhere late last week, and your Zach Tran top quote for the day, come out of Tama Livestock Auction on Friday, Tama, Iowa. 61 head, 797 pound steers bring $146. That's your feeder flash for Monday.